Welcome everyone to my Tuesday chess stream here on lichess and Twitch. I'm an international master living in Budapest, Hungary. My name is William Paschall. We are from the United States originally, based here in Budapest. And it's 10 a.m. Central European time at the moment. We're streaming like this Monday to Friday, blitz and classical chess here on lichess. And on Sundays I do a simul every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Central European time. I think this week we will pick out a couple games from our weekly simul and go over those for a video on my YouTube channel, which is Video Chess Training on YouTube. I also want to just let you know you can contact me via my email, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. If you have any questions about the stream or suggestions, or you're interested in training, send me an email or message me here on lichess. And Dwayne Cadera says, could you play me first? I only have a break at school. Dwayne Cadera, I guess we could do that. We will play Dwayne first, making a special exception for his not being a usual player here on the stream. Monday to Friday, we'll give him a special chance to play first today. Guys, on Wednesday, I do a stream where I'm playing unusual openings. I call it Weird Wednesday. We are playing unusual openings, classical time control same time control between 5 and 8 minutes. Still not quite awake, but it's good that you let me know right away, Dway, before we get to the list of players. Normally I wouldn't make an exception, but since you're here, we haven't even started yet. I will let you play first. Symmetrical English. I almost played knight f3 there, but I feel like the setup with knight on g to e2 is normally the best. Interesting move order. I'm just curious, where do you get this from? You know, is this like recommended by somebody in a book? Because maybe some London system. Sorry, I didn't see your request for opening, but Dway, I'm not really a London system player, so I don't think I would really be able to. I mean, I have played the London system on a rare occasion, but all right. This business with playing e6 right away. I have seen white do this with colors reversed. But I mean, it should be noted that like some people, after like knight c6, e3, e6, there is this concept of like taking on c6, but I'm not going to do that once I've played e3. And I'm not going to do that unless you've played e6. It would have to be a special move order, I guess. If you go knight c6 and I play d3, and then you play e6, I could play bishop takes c6. Kind of like a reversed version of a system I've played here before. What else? I guess knight f3 is possible. I have some gambit possibilities. Yeah. You got no video, only audio. I think you should refresh your... Oh, that's weird. I think I should refresh mine, actually. Because I'm not seeing anything either. Maybe we just need to refresh it. I don't seem to be dropping frames, so it should be working. Let me try my own advice. Yeah. I would go ahead and do that. I had to actually refresh my own video there. Dwayne Cadera should probably play knight c6 in that position. Yeah, just go ahead and refresh the Twitch stream there. Can white play for e4? Yeah. Blue Crow, white can play for e4. Do refresh your stream though. I had to do that with my own. Of course, white can play e4 there. In that last position. e4, the Botvinnik formation. Of course, it's absolutely playable for white. The only line that really bothers me against the Botvinnik pawns formation is like when black plays maybe knight c6 and the pawn's back on e7 and tries to play like a very quick a6 and b5. But other than that, I mean, you can always play e4. I just don't really... I don't often play the Botvinnik pawn formation. I haven't really ever been that successful with it. I remember once I played against Kaidanov. I mean, back in the day, when I was before I was even a master, I would play e4 type setups quite frequently, but it's not the most fluid, so it's not my favorite. I just castled rather routinely there. I think it might be best to play e4, which would transpose to some sort of hedgehog type position. So now I castled. Now he plays knight c6. I expected d5. Now is a really interesting moment. I don't know if I should play knight b5 or not, or does that lose too much time? Can black sacrifice a pawn or something? It's very tempting to do so. We're on the verge of transposing to a game I lost with black last year. The Hungarian Team Championship. If he gets in like d5 and takes back with a pawn on d5. Knight b5, does this waste too much time? In the meantime, what am I supposed to do here? Like bishop e3, knight g4, I don't think I'm too fond of that. h3, I guess. Then d5, h3. h3 looks slow. I mean, d5. Bishop e3, knight g4. Not quite sure. Knight b5. Well, let's try it anyway. Go out on a limb here. It's a little late to play e4 now. You meant e4 still. Even after knight f3, knight f6. Blue Crow, knight f3, knight f6, e4. Yeah, it's an unusual position. That's kind of weird. e4 now. I don't like e4 as much with the knight already on f3. I would think that he could play d5 there. It's interesting. I'm sure that it's playable, Blue Crow. No, actually, maybe e4 knight c6 would be best for black. And I don't like this Botvinnik pawn formation with my knight on f3, but then again, yeah, e4 knight c6 bothers me a little bit because I can't play e5 knight g4. And maybe I could, but it doesn't look right. And then d4 is not really possible. So I don't think so, Blue Crow. I don't like e4 once I've played knight f3. I was playing in a tournament here on lichess yesterday. I was playing 5-0, and I realized that I'm really spoiled with these increment games and kind of forgotten a little bit forgot how to play, without increment, because I let my clock get down. I have a tendency now to let my clock get down too low in the non-increment games, because I can do that in increment, and it cost me. I lost some rating points in blitz because I lost and drew a couple games where I let myself get into like irreversible time pressure. Knight b3 was theory, according to Mule Skinner. Knight b3 was theory. Yeah, I mean, that's a move that's certainly interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if black could sacrifice a pawn there with d5. Wouldn't be surprised. But knight b3 looks like a stupid move, like, in principle. I mean, you're pulling the knight away from the center, and it may have been played before, but that doesn't mean it's automatically good. Black could play a5, a4, maybe sacrifice a pawn with d5, but I think knight b3 is a move that we should consider. I never... Oh, there's d5 anyway. Speaking of the devil, ooh, yeah, this is what I was talking about, sacrificing a pawn. I think he has compensation. Maybe I best be careful. Be careful not to be worse. We have a better structure, but the b2 pawn is the problem. So white shouldn't end up worse in this position, but I'm afraid that he has enough. The knight b5 wasted enough time. I don't think knight b3 would have been a whole lot better. It wasted enough time to make this pawn sacrifice kind of valid for black. Now what? Queen takes d5. Whatever happens, happens. Queen e7. Not really sure. But actually, I can play knight back to c3. Looks like a reasonable move. This one develops. It feels like black has plenty of compensation for the sacrificed pawn. There's just not enough time to really calculate everything that's going on. I think that black's... I just don't want to be worse. I keep saying like half sentences. Now bishop c5. I'm not really sure what's going on. And I definitely missed something. It looks like queen takes e2 there. So I guess we don't have time for that. I should play rook b1. I like how he just insta-moves. How can he find these moves that fast? Rook d8, probably best. I thought I've played this guy more than 3 games. It's kind of weird. Seems like I played more than 3 games. Just not sure what my plan is in this position. couldn't find a good move here. Maybe my best move was actually queen c5, trading queens. Ironically. It didn't occur to me till now. This was probably the best move. For some reason I overlooked it. But white doesn't have an advantage, I don't think. Yeah, this is like a robot move. Pretty tough to find that move. Honestly, bishop e5, that's a difficult move to find. This is almost certainly the engine's #1 choice. I was terrified of this move. This is the one move that actually poses serious problems for white in this position. Trying to keep the queens on the board. I don't know if I would find that for black. With white, it's different. You're looking at it from like a defensive perspective, so I think I would be finding this more often in my shoes. But for black to find it, he has to understand that he doesn't want to trade queens. Did I have anything else there? I'm getting attacked by bishop f5. Queen e4 was a very bad move for me. Now I'm just trying to hang on. He's like 2200 in bullet chess. So I don't know what my bullet rating would be. But I'm just happy I'm not lost here. Bishop takes c6. I'm trying to win a pawn. We have no idea how high rated our opponent is. Like, I don't know if he plays in tournaments, but he's played very well against me in the simul's. This looks like a draw. Well, actually, I'm winning a pawn. Maybe there's some kind of trick. Yeah, it has this. This is looking pretty equal. Okay, good game. Good game. Knight b5 was a mistake. If we look at this position, when Skinner suggested knight b3, I'm sure that knight b5 is a mistake as well. Skinner, it's one game between Plachetka and Majewski, but that doesn't make it a good move, knight b3. It's not theory, it's just a move that was played. The best move is unclear, but it's not knight b5 or knight b3. Now the computer is looking at my move knight b5, but I don't think this is the right move. I'm almost certain it's not. Bishop g5 develops a piece, so I would lean toward that as it develops a piece. I was also thinking about h3, but that looks kind of slow. In fact, probably only equal. c5, that's an interesting move. Maybe that's the idea here, as played in some other English type positions. Okay, so this might be the answer, to play c5 in this position. I'm gonna believe that's more like it. I might have even seen this somewhere. C5 looks like a good move. That looks like the best try. Yeah, we're all beginners compared to Kasparov. Lavalantula, 5-5. All right, guys, that was a good warm-up game against a master strength opponent. I don't like to play sharp games like the first game or two. Actually, I don't like the pairing system of lichess tournaments because, like, you keep getting paired with the other highest rated player, like in the tournament. You know, why are the two highest rated players paired with each other in the first rounds of tournaments? Because I think naturally, like, you kind of need to warm up. You know, I think that's the way the normal tournament develops. Like, you start with the weaker players and warm your way up to playing stronger players. Like, whenever I enter one of the blitz tournaments here, I'm automatically paired with the other, like, highest rated player in the tournament, which I don't understand that pairing system, but it seems disadvantageous to the higher rated players. I don't have time to warm up. Yesterday I immediately got a really tough opponent, like my first game, when I hadn't played like non-increment blitz in, I don't know, 2 weeks. It's to give one of them a chance to overtake the other. But is that just like the first round, or is it like the entire... I don't really understand that. Anyway, there's a lot of things I don't understand. But now I know, like, if I want to play a blitz tournament on lichess, it's best to play some warm-up games first, because you're going to play like the other highest rated player right out of the gate. I mean, there's always like higher rated players that come along later and enter the tournament later, but so much for getting warming up slowly. I like to slowly work my way up to the strongest players. Yesterday I got this other Hungarian player in the nightly or daily blitz tournament, and he was so fast. Like, not that strong, but like super fast. I almost lost on time. Then I hung a piece and he offered a draw when we both had like 20 seconds left. He was like more afraid of me than I was afraid of him. I was afraid of him because he was so fast. I was afraid he was just going to flag me. I need a little more practice with non-increment blitz. But it's not really good for my stream because I don't have time to talk about the games. My normal time control, my preferred time control always was 5-0. I think was my strongest blitz time control, but now I'm getting used to the increment, but it is kind of a luxury. Okay, up-and-comers just assuming that it gives the top players a chance to overtake each other, which may be like a reasonable concept. So if you do play a lichess tournament, make sure you play some warm-up games first. Lavalantula, I could always transpose to the English attack, but I have had a number of games with people here on lichess in this particular variation lately, and everyone seems to play it really well for white. I may have to find a new system against this move order with f3. This had always served me well, this a6 and d5, but I guess that opening knowledge is so freely available now that everyone can just click on the opening encyclopedia and find the right moves. Very hard to prevent people from cheating in tournaments using opening book. I mean, you could probably have a better shot at proving that they're using an engine for playing their moves, but how can you prove somebody's like using an opening book? Difficult to prove anything. d5 though, he is taking some time here. I've encountered some problematic variations here. There's two lines. Mark Hebden played queen e2 against me. That's another story. That's a very interesting move. And that's something that a strong grandmaster might know about. But most people aren't going to do that. this move, e takes d or knight takes c6 right away. And now I have two variations. Knight takes d5 or knight b4. Queen e2 is kind of a specialist move. You might not even find it in the lichess opening explorer or whatever. You like lichess because I don't need to buy like 20 opening books. Look, take care though, okay? This is not a professional grade like opening book. What you're seeing in the lichess online opening explorer or whatever we want to call it. They're, first of all games, like all classical old games, are like missing. You know, like there's practically no games from the 50s and 60s, which are really, really important. And a lot of other games just aren't there. So it's nice and it's really sweet the way it works, but don't base your like preparation for a major tournament in one particular opening on just the games in the lichess opening explorer. There's a lot of stuff that's not in there. So if you do prepare your openings for serious competitions or something, I would be sure to use like a serious opening database. Yeah, I know, the master database, that's what we're talking about. Compared to chess-based megabase or opening master, well, there's just a lot of games that aren't in there, and especially like older ones. People think it was like the Dark Ages, like in the 60s or something, but a lot of those games are higher quality than modern games because the time controls are longer, first of all, and secondly, I mean, just legendary players. Queen d2. Well, it is a very valuable piece, this bishop on e3, so I'm going to take it. But now we are a little bit behind in development, so I have to take care. b5 looks dangerous. He could do something like sack a piece on b5. I feel like I should develop. I guess I have bishop c5, worst case scenario. If he castles long, I can play bishop c5. But I don't really want to give up my dark squared bishop after all this has been said and done. Queen b6. This move concerns me. I might have queen c7. But ultimately, I'm concerned about like the knight coming to f5 in such a position. Wow, Iron Destroyer. You talking something about the 5-0 tournament? You lost to a 1400 player who was like playing without mistakes. Okay, Iron Destroyer. There are cheaters. There was one guy in the 5-0 tournament I played in who was like 1700. He was beating everybody. I didn't get paired with him, you know, which was fortunate. I mean, there are some people you can just, it's obvious they're cheating and they get, you know, they get banned and that's it. But no, that's not, I wasn't complaining about anybody cheating. I mean, I know that there's people who cheat. I was, though, mentioning the fact that less obvious are the people who cheat using opening database, you know, because I've noticed that a lot lately. It's very strange how some of my games go exactly, the other guy plays exactly the moves that are like the one game in that variation in the lichess opening explorer, you know. That's a little weird. So I am getting the feeling that people are taking liberties with the opening explorer, and it's very hard to detect that or prove that. That was my point. Alright, I spent forever on this move. Played the pinning motif with queen b6. So my only point was not to cry about people who are using engines, which are, of course, the more obvious ones who do that, Ion Destroyer, are going to get caught immediately. My question was, like, how do you prove people are using the opening explorer to, like, make their opening moves? It's not like, you know, they're mowing people down with perfect engine play. It's much harder to, like, prove it, you know. Queen d3 here. This is a possibility. He's taken away his queen from the file here. So knight f5 isn't as brutal a threat as it was. Looks like we have a good game. Knight e4 perhaps is a threat now. What am I going to do, like repeat moves or something? I was afraid of knight e4 there. I mean, when I say afraid, I mean like relatively afraid. Like I'm shaking with fear, but I'm just saying that, and there's nothing anybody's ever going to be able to do to like stop people from cheating with opening books. If it's not using the lichess, you know, opening explorer, then they got the same free opening explorer from another site or something. So, wow, look at this piece sacrifice. That's pretty nasty, you know. And on king f7, he has some nasty stuff. He also has tactics based on rook takes e7, some mates or something. So, goodness. Maybe I have rook d8 here. Is this like only move? Maybe I have queen d8. I thought rook d8 is nearly only move. Handy to have knight g8. I don't think this guy's like tactical enough. Lavalantula. I've never played this player before. It's like an avalanche of tactics coming at you. I'd be surprised if I wasn't like losing somewhere there. It's sort of hard to believe that I didn't succumb to some kind of tactical shot. After having to play knight g8, I thought I was toast. To cut off my own rook on h8. Kind of disturbing to have to do that. So I'd be kind of surprised if I wasn't lost somehow. But neither of us had a lot of time. Don't like trading pawns here, but in that case he will have very bad structure. Plays c4. Should be enough pawns for me to win it. Enough pawns remaining, that is. King e3, knight a5. Otherwise my king can come in here. Just enough to win. Wrong choice to exchange rooks. Well, objectively, I was going to get, my rook was going to get out of control on the e-file, so there was no good choice. That's the only problem with that. There was no good choice. Well, that's not the right way to go. Try to hit my knight, but it's lost. Lavalantula has no rating. Oh, no, just in classical, okay. He has 1900. Blitz and bullet. I have 11 challenges, guys. What's wrong to exchange rook? Wrong choice to exchange rooks. I answered that already. Reported who for cheating? Oh, you're talking about someone else? You had a friend who was a cheater on lichess, on chess sites. So you got to look into the cheater's mentality. Anyway, the opening explorer is a great tool, but it's making it really easy for people to cheat here. But if they could take it off of lichess, it wouldn't matter, because other people would just, you know, have it like sitting on the side like somewhere else. So it's like it might as well just be open. There was this player who played on my stream last year who was just like constantly using the opening book against me and like pretending they weren't, you know. It was so obvious. One time they did this double sacrifice against me that had occurred in like one particular master game. And I think Ponomarev had played or something like that. And that was the moment when I knew it was like crystal clear that like they reeled these moves off like really fast. It's just impossible. So anyway, it's a useful tool, but my recommendation is to get a professional grade database. I know ChessBase. There must be other competitors of ChessBase out there. I'm not a supporter of ChessBase, but it is the most well-known chess database. Castles, right, so this position has long kind of vexed me. Now, I did look at this a month and a half ago or so, but now I've forgotten what I looked at. I might have been preparing for Muleskinner or just preparing this variation in general. trying to recall what I looked at. D5, it leads to an ending that, well, it can lead to an ending. No, I think D5 may be the best move. There's a couple different possibilities here. Another move that's actually not bad for black is D6. It's probably okay to play D6, but I feel like it's not as active. Is Opening Explorer of chess.com free to use? I don't know. I don't really play on chess.com. Haven't had a very great impression of that site thus far. I would assume it's maybe like the same Opening Explorer. It's like generically available. On a lot of different chess sites. I mean, I don't know the creator of the Opening Explorer program or whatever, but I'm assuming it's the same one. Maybe it can be like, you can plug different databases into it, though. Obviously, that's what they're doing here with the lichess part of it. Maybe there's like a generic one that comes with the program, and then you can plug in your own database if you want to. I will come somewhere about 12 p.m. and see where I am on the list. Okay, I Am Destroyer. I Am Destroyer has been destroying me lately. He beat me in the blitz game yesterday. Okay, so Mule Skinner decided to play e5. The other move is pawn takes pawn, which leads to a very peculiar ending after pawn takes pawn, knight f6. Sorry, pawn takes pawn, a6, knight f6, d4, knight takes d5. I'm trying to remember. Previously, I think I've played bishop g4 a lot against James Plaskett, and there was a guy on the Internet Chess Club. What is his name? An IM from the UK. I think he was a chess author, the usual suspect. Maybe, I don't remember who it is. Maybe Craig Pritchett. I don't remember what the guy's name is, but a couple of these English guys would play this system. So this is like the English way of playing it, or British if you prefer. And the American way of playing it is like taking on d5. But I think that bishop g4 wasn't considered the best move, but I'm not sure what was considered the best move for black here. a6, I guess. Just that a6, it does weaken my dark squares a little bit, and I'm not sure what it really achieves. It sends the knight back. I guess it's useful to send the knight back, isn't it? I would always like refrain from doing that, feeling like the knight was misplaced on b5. I'm forcing it back in the center. But objectively, maybe it's best. It does do some nasty stuff from b5. Then we get the bishop outside the pawn chain. I can remember playing a blitz game against Jim Plaskett. This position like almost 20 years ago. Maybe it was 1999. So it was around 1999. That would have been 18 years ago. My math is unbelievable. I've been playing chess that long. You learned yesterday the Owen defense, and it seems that many players don't know how to play against it. We've had this discussion quite a bit on my stream. I think that the Owen defense is playable. It's a little bit passive. And I've compared it to the St. George, where black plays a6 and b5. But it's a trade-off. If you play a6 and b5, which I have played a6 in tournament games like quite a few times. I have 5 or 6 or more against masters. I'm not talking about playing against 1900 players. I mean, I've played e4, a6 against probably like 6 or 7 master strength players. Only lost once with Josh Friedel, and won quite a few games. But the problem with a6 and b5 is that you weaken the queen side. Whereas b6, you get less counterplay, but you don't have to deal with like white undermining your queen side with a4. So it's hard to say whether the Owen defense or the St. George is objectively better. Okay, the very close position, it looks like a Gurgenidze Caro-Kann. Mule Skinner likes these closed positions. He loves closed positions. I have to develop my pieces. And the reason why the whole a6 discussion earlier, maybe he could generate some play against my c5 pawn, but it's not so easy. Look, he's looking for dark squares. He's kind of like looking for this, take control of the dark squares. Objectively, this position looks equal to me. Gurgenidze Caro-Kann. That's what I said, right? Hard to get an advantage here. Then d4 looks like a good move. I hate these extremely blocked positions. There's also some question about where my king belongs here. And I can't just ignore this. Rook c8. I can't just leave my king in the center of the board, or can I? Maybe I could if I played h5. In the classic Gurgenidze type position, I would play h5, maybe h4, knight f5, bishop f8, bishop e7, king f8, king g7, and hide my king on g7. If I had it like fixed, if I could fix the king side with knight f5 and h4, but that's kind of utopian. A utopian plan of what might happen if white let me do whatever I wanted. But that's not a bad way to think about the game, guys. If you're given the opportunity, to sit there and think, what would I do if the other guy let me do whatever I want? Because this helps you to develop like a general sense of the right plan. So play king h1. Now what part of this long-term plan can I actually execute? That's what we're talking about here. Now, very awkward situation with the pawn on c5. I mean, c4, nothing is really appealing here to me. I don't know, c4 blocks like the whole entire board, and then he could even undermine me with b3. So now he has this monster knight on d4, which is wonderful. And I have to be careful about the position opening up in his favor. So I think we should challenge that guy. This is a very, very typical game for this variation. I don't really like playing this kind of position, but we're black and we don't have that much choice. You score better in the Grand Prix than any other opening according to lichess. Well, there were a whole bunch of people playing this opening with white who I know. It was kind of trendy for a while, mainly because of my mentor, Roman Djindjiashvili, did a video series on this system 20 years ago and became kind of like an easy way for white to play. I'm starting to think that black might be a little bit better here, but in the interim, my king is still stuck in the middle of the board, so life is not that simple. Bishop f8. I could also play f6, but I think that would be a mistake. So we're executing most of the Gurgenidze-Caro-Kann plan here. Although now playing like king f8, king g7 is probably not really recommended. I think the king will probably chill out on f8. d7 is not a really safe position unless there was like a pawn on d4. If the d file was closed, I would consider like putting my king on d7 permanently. Of course, it's not that easy for him to execute c4, so my king may be relatively safe, in fact. And I was thinking about, oh, look at that b3. Stopping rook c4, preparing c4. Of course, I'm not sure he wants to do that to his pawn structure. I don't think I'm going to go as far as to like sack an exchange with rook c3, bishop d4. Queen c7, obviously. This could be a better ending for me in the event of something like bishop c5, bishop takes c5, queen takes c5, queen takes c5, rook takes c5. A very good rook ending, but it's not going to be easy to get him to cooperate and necessarily trade queens. c4. I don't think he can do that favorably. Maybe there's some tactical way to get it in, but I could play b5 myself. Maybe it's a good idea. He does c4. How does that work, Mule Skinner? I mean, yeah, you can play it, but I'm not going to take the pawn on c4. I mean, maybe you're right, though. Maybe it was the best. Still, I can just blockade. Queen takes c4 is not possible. I can castle here. However, king f3 is starting to look. This is starting to look a little problematic. His bishop's pretty strong, honestly, at this point. If I could trade queens, I would be fine. But white's probably better now, having gotten in c4, and my king's still not safe. I'm a little backward. c4 was a brilliant move. Of course, we were so stupid. I could have played b5 in this position previously. That would have been the thing to do. But I realized too late. Rook b1. Guess we're in trouble here. Activate the last rook. Activate the last piece. Not happy with the way I played this game. Well, I let him get in c4. This is super surprising move. Queen a7. Wow. Queen c6. Man, I'm in serious trouble here. This is just a blunder. I think we gave Muleskinner too many ideas. He's never beaten me. 3 draws. Rook b2. King safety. He just went into panic mode. This was tragic for Muleskinner. Absolutely typical for this variation. My king was lost because I was trapped in the center when everything came down. So unfortunate for him. We've got a million challenges. Constant Change, Plucro, Ghost Mine, a new player, Bucanere. Bucanere, I don't know if he has any rated games. I can't play you, Bucanere. You need to have some established rating. Vasila Kos, Zen Chess, Tactical Destroyer, Girl of Chess, and Melibaba FM, well, quote-unquote FM Melibaba. Let's get started. I don't think I'm going to be able to play all these games. Will we get to Tactical Destroyer? I don't know. He should have won easily that position. He was basically up a clear pawn with the safer king. We've had a number of games against Constant Change. He seems to be employing this old Indian defense. Alright, now there is this possibility of c5, e4. c5, e4, pawn takes d6. Pawn takes f3, pawn takes e7. Dude, what's up with that? I may have overlooked this in a previous game, but c5, e4, pawn takes d6, pawn takes f3, pawn takes e7. Pawn takes g2, I take his queen. So that breaks up his center, which should be favorable for white. So you have to be alert to like the move orders here. Now, it's not like I'm winning or something, but this is favorable for white to break up his center. I should have knight d4, I should have d4. It's like a great semi-Slav where my king side is permanently safe. There's no checkmates on h2 or something like that. But it's not the only way to play with d4 immediately. The pieces aren't really well coordinated. The knight on d7, knight on f6. Now, if he had something like c5 and knight on c6, he'd have a good position. Yeah, it's an old Indian move order. What's this current opening has doing? It's an unusual kind of passive setup that black played. Filipovich. Bishop e7, this is not really a great move. And I guess, if I was really paying attention, I can play c5 right away there. c5, e4, c takes d. So, there's something to be looking out for playing c5 here. But it's not as favorable until he plays c6. You know, I'm not sure this really achieves anything. I need him to play c6, so his real mistake, I guess, is combining bishop e7 and c6. Though it's playable, it's not great for black. So first we complete our development before we're going to strike. He played h6. This move, another move which is somewhat reasonable, but arguably like a waste of time and kind of weakening. Right. Now I have d4 here, which has to be calculated carefully. I think white's slightly better. You can't really ask too much of the English opening. You can't expect to like blow people away. You're basically playing a quiet, hyper-modern type of system. Gladys Troll makes a new account every week. Well, you're not the only one. That's you? Okay, now we have an interesting moment where I could play... My original plan was to play knight to d2, which no doubt should be good for white. But the other possibility is knight e5. Bishop takes e5, d takes e5. Rook takes e5, and then a discovery with knight takes e4. That looks good too. Actually, they're both good. Spoiled for choice here. However, maybe he does have one move. On knight e5. Yeah, everything's good. Knight d2 is good. Knight e5 is good. White has to be better here. Famous last words. It has to be better here. Constant change, he's incapable of using time for some reason. He only plays super fast. He will not slow down, no matter how much we tell him not to do it. Welcome everyone to my chess stream here. I'd like to point out that I have a YouTube channel, Video Chess Training, where I upload, again, Video Chess Training on YouTube, where I upload all the streams from here and also other videos that I'm doing at the moment like once a week. I'm going to be uploading like original content, chess videos, either reviews of the games I play here, maybe the simul I do on Sundays, every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. CET or Central European Time. My simuls on Sundays will be 20 players for the next month because I have a team game every week, every Sunday morning in the next month, the next 5 weeks at least. Very busy time here in the Hungarian and Budapest team championships. The seasons have been kind of like condensed. They used to start earlier and end earlier, but now they're kind of condensing the team championship into like a shorter time frame, so it's starting later and finishing earlier, and a lot more games in a row. I have a tournament game pretty much every Sunday morning. So as far as I know, I'm just winning a pawn in this position. The best he can do is, I don't know what the best he can do. I mean, he would like to be able to like double my pawns somehow, but I don't think he can pull that off. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, I have to we could do a Steinitzian sort of piece sacrifice. It would be interesting. Knight takes e4. I almost went into this. So he's got a piece sacrifice he's going to force me to play after knight takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, f6, f4, and white has this like massive compensation for a sacrificed piece, I would think. But I think I better like think about this a little bit before I make a decision to go into that. It doesn't seem like it's obligatory. F3 deserves serious consideration. Even G4 would be a move, though I don't like it. So bishop F5 it is. I think I would have pretty big compensation if I did the piece sacrifice. I would have like a 5-on-2 majority on the king's side. But I'm only getting 2 pawns for a piece there. So it's better not to go for it right away. F3 is playable. But the problem is F3, pawn takes F3, queen takes F5, pawn takes G2, king takes G2, it's not forced to play king takes G2. Could play rook F2 there. I'm running out of time, so I might have a better plan somewhere, but I don't really see it, and I'm running out of time. I have 2 minutes, so he managed to get some kind of really, really strange tactical compensation here. I mean, it's hard to believe that he planned this out with using no time at all. You know, I'll just play bishop f5, whatever. Another move that was interesting for white was rook d1. Developing my last piece. whatever happens here, I guess I should have reasonable chances. But I think that I could have done the piece sacrifice. Even though I get just 2 pawns for a piece, my kingside majority is so massive that it's hard to believe white wouldn't have really serious compensation for the sacrificed piece. But my general philosophy is not to allow great complications when you're behind on the clock, as is the case here. If we have a choice to avoid complications, it's a little more clear after pawn takes f3, queen takes f5, pawn takes g2. Material is balanced, so the other situation with the imbalance of material is pretty irrational. There was another line there. Maybe bishop takes e5, followed by queen d4 check. Okay, so king takes g2. I'm obviously concerned about knight forks on e3, but what knight fork? Right. Like, namely, what? Okay. Rook f2 is also possible, but I guess it's not necessary. Yes, this is the aforementioned knight fork. Okay. Is rook f3 worth considering? It's probably not a bad move. He's got this ridiculous time advantage on me every single time we play. How can he play such a good game and have 3 minutes more than me? To find the good moves, he should have to use a little more time. But at the end of the day, my philosophical, does that sound right? Philosophical? Philosophical speculation about this player and most players like him. It's not that he wants to necessarily like not only win on time, he's afraid to be in time pressure himself. So it's kind of like a defensive thing. The fact that he can't play, he doesn't play and take his time. It almost seems like he's like unwilling. Knight e7 is a fantastic move. Perfectly setting up a fork if I play queen f4, knight g6. I don't understand how I'm 35.5 to 6.5 against constant change. He plays awful well sometimes. He should be higher rated. He's only 2062, but I feel like he has a lot of potential. I feel like I'm playing a master half the time, and sometimes he makes some stupid mistakes. But oftentimes just moving too fast. This position looks interesting. Bishop takes e5. It's a monster knight on d5. Though e4. complicated. We have the center. I had a lesson with one of my students yesterday with very, very similar kind of positions we were discussing. Knight b4 here. Oh my goodness. I don't know where I should put my queen in this position. c5. So I'm just busted. Knight c2. What? Why would you play that? I'm just totally lost in that position. You played a perfect game until knight c2. I didn't even understand. I don't really understand the point of knight c2. Well, it's not over yet. But I feel like I'm playing a master. Just he played knight c2. And the c5 move he found in the key position was extremely strong. I don't understand, like, okay, what am I doing here? Blockading. Resigned. I mean, I'm probably lost after c5. No? This was really amazing defense. Okay, he doesn't need to play c5. He just wins a pawn. Knight b4 is a winning move. I expected queen c8 here, and then he played knight e7, and I made a blunder. So I should have played queen d3. But being in the time pressure, it's impossible. I played back, he played knight d5. I could repeat position with queen d5, queen f5, e4. And c5, actually this is a mistake. But you have to be a computer to find move. Knight takes f7. How could I possibly find that with my flag hanging? Knight takes f7. There's no way to find that. It's too difficult when you have no time left. Blue Crow, 5-4. So constant change, you got a winning position with more time, but made a very strange blunder with knight to c2. Fortuit Folier said he only lost one game so far. Who, Adiban? Maybe my last opponent made a mouse slip with knight c2. What could he have been? What could he have been trying to play instead of knight c2? Adiban last year in the B tournament was, this is talking about Tata, which is, or Chorus, I don't know what we call it now. It had too many names. It's getting like really annoying to talk about that tournament because it has so many different names that I don't know what to call it anymore. But Adiban was kind of an escape artist last year in the B tournament. Blue Crow, this is one of my... It's not a great line for black, but I like to play it. It's one of my favorite variations. This somewhat offbeat rouser with bishop d7. I remember watching Robert Barron play this in like 1992, 1993 New York Open. One of his last tournaments, probably. He beat a young Jorge Samor. And I was like, wow, that's really cool to play like bishop d7. Of course, it was pioneered by, really primarily, this variation with bishop d7 was pioneered primarily by the Soviet Grandmaster Leonid Stein, who was a massive, massive talent, but died very early. He lost a painful game in the bishop d7, rook c8 line. This is a very strange move, h4. I never encountered this before. Say something constant change. Was it a mouse slip constant change? Knight c2? Because that's what it looks like. The move had no... I mean, I guess he was threatening a fork, or how was it? There was a check on e3 or something, but it doesn't make sense to me. I was lucky. I've been lost in a couple games against Mule Skinner and constant change now. Of course, I am talking my way into time pressure, which is usually my downfall here, but it gives you guys a fair chance. Anyway, I'm talking again, just kind of stall here because I don't really know. h4 looks like a good move. I mean, that looks like a very reasonable kind of thing, h4. However, well, I mean, there's nothing great I can do. I mean, it seems like that's a move that would be played a little later on, but it will fit in. Knight takes. d4, queen a5 loses all of its point. e6 seems problematic. We could trade on d4, play queen a5, and pretend like we could pretend like you played h4 in answer to queen a5, and then here we are, you know. I'm just like completely baffled. e6, knight b5. I don't see a good move there. a6 is just a move, a neutral move. This h4 looks good to me. Did you get this from the opening? Not now, I mean. I'm not implying that you're cheating using the opening explorer, but did you get this from the opening explorer, h4? Because I've never actually seen that played anywhere. This is something that you researched and found. h4 is a ginger GM style move. Well, it's usually played a little later on. But f3 seems not as incisive as something like castle's queenside. And also bishop e2 should be playable. You could play h5. Yes, all h4s in chess are Ginger GM moves. He originated it. h4. Now, in the Dismantled Sicilian, the author recommends a plan with f3 and h4. The Dismantled Sicilian. Yeah, okay. Well, it's pretty standard policy in some of these other Rouser lines, I guess. But it's interesting to play h4 right away. I never actually encountered that. I'm not really impressed with my position. And we have no time left, so we'll just play blitz. Carlsen mismated 3. What? Constant Change says the thing is I was winning one more pawn on that move. Rook takes e4. Yeah, of course rook takes e4. There's no way I could find... I had a win with knight takes f7. I'm never going to find that with less than a minute on the clock. But I did see queen d3, which was the correct move. And I don't know why I didn't... I had rejected queen d3 in the previous game. I'm not really sure why, though. It was more centralized than queen c2. Would have been better. Now we have an interesting possibility in this position to play h5. Which happens sometimes in this structure. I could attempt to break his pawn structure. Probably a bit complicated. 28 seconds. I wasted all my time. Well, I didn't waste it, but I don't think I used my time very economically here. I was just kind of thinking in circles for 4 minutes while I couldn't think of a good response to h4. Played the rather lame a6. Honestly, now it's my turn again. Bishop takes f6. Well, I don't see anything wrong with queen takes. Original plan was take with the pawn, but with time pressure and knight plays g5. This bishop has got to count for something. There are too many things on that diagonal. So I can win a pawn. Not a great pawn, but a pawn. In the past I have been reluctant to take such pawns, but I think, given my time situation, giving up that bishop on the long diagonal in this ending is probably the right thing to do. It is a great bishop, but I don't think I'm going to be getting any mating attacks going on here anytime soon. Yes, bishop d3 is a problem. Bishop d3 just stuffs up everything. I can't do anything with that thing there. And bishop b5, not exactly my happiest moment in life. But now these pawns look kind of bad. Worse than mine. Lateral or frontal doubled. Your pawns are isolated. Should be a winning position for me. I would think this ending is a win for black. Converting it is another story. I'm not sure how to make progress. I figured out how to make some sort of progress. That's progress. We are up a pawn. Plucro also suffering from this is not an increment time control disease. I have the opposite problem, that I've forgotten how to play without increment. A lot of you guys don't know how to play with increment. This king being cut off is very bad news for white. Can't take the time with you to the grave. But I have two connected passed pawns now. So I've got to remember how to play without increment, and you guys need to learn how to play with increment. Maybe we can have a training session together. I don't know. I guess that's what this is. You guys need to help me with my non-increment game. Actually, I did consider that. Okay, it was a cheapo. I openly admit I played a cheapo. Well, you had a chance to take the pawn? Oh no. I'm still winning. Alright. The king is a bit awkwardly placed here. Getting in the way of my pawns. Well, this should be winning in any case. But whenever I have 11 seconds left, I'm a little bit worried. In the way of the pawns again. Oh. Yeah, that doesn't really work, does it? We're going to need to use the king. This should be a win. Situation is a little different now. Alright, thank you for the game, Plucro. Take your time. Ghost Mind. The artist formerly known as Fortuit Folier is now known as Bucanere. Okay. Okay. Alright, you're up next, Fortuit Folier. Thank you for being honest about your multiple accounts. Ghostmind playing the King's Indian. Usually he plays some kind of weird openings. We have about another hour left, guys. I normally stream till, ladies and gentlemen, I normally stream till 12:30. We have another... Where's Saddest Troll? We have another Grunfeld theoretician for Saddest Troll. We can compare notes with Ghost Mind. I'm just kidding. It's just a mean joke. Torturing Saddest Troll. Rook b1 or bishop e2. Well, he hasn't played c5 yet. Okay, this is non-theoretical move. So, as Saddest Troll knows, c5 is the main line here. Rook b1 to follow. The white has other lines as well. e6 is blocking in the bishop on c8, so suboptimal. The dude makes comments. What dude? Yeah, I tend to like waste all my time commenting and talking about the position and other stuff. E6 is actually a move that's not bad, usually a little bit later on. The bishop should have to come out to b7. I would imagine that it's not like that horrible for Ghostmind to play e6 there. It's certainly inaccurate, but he can probably make his position work. Spitler would typically play like c5, followed by knight d7, and sometimes e6 later on. Okay, queen e7. Queen e7 is a reasonable enough move. I'm not certain that bishop g5 is the right plan here. f6 isn't all that bad for black. But I think white has to be better. And I have to make a decision. There's no time to play perfect moves. Bishop e3 or bishop g5. The other plan was a4 to play bishop a3, but that looks a little silly after black plays rook d8. So he played queen a3, provocative move. I did consider this. So queen d2, I don't want to trade queens. I think that lets him off the hook, and his queen could be exposed on a3. His score is similar to mine also. Yeah, but we all know the reason you usually lose, Troll, is your time management is worse than mine. You played quite competently in those chess 960s that you used to play against me. I thought your score should be much better than it is. So we have the plan to play bishop h6 and trade off his bishop on g7. And I think that's the right idea here. That's the defender of his king side in the dark squares. It's also arguably his best minor piece. But he never did get this Grunfeld type of counterplay with c5. That's what he should be playing instead of e6. e6 maybe later on. h4, h5 is one typical attacking plan to up the ante on black. Well, I guess I should just simply play d5 here. I don't have a passed pawn, which I traditionally would in the Grunfeld, since he hasn't played c5. But this also has another point, and the d4 knight maneuver could be... Actually, that wins material here if I want to with knight d4. Threat on e6. Swinging in there. I was thinking about queen f4. That could be okay in some positions. There are also knight f5 sacrifices, but probably that's not going to materialize. And lastly, we might be able to play rook b3 and slide it across to attack the black king. If you give me enough space, I turn into quite the attacking player. Well, yeah, I mean, in the Grunfeld, black needs to get counterplay against the white center. You know, you give up the center and you need to get counterplay. Typically in the main lines, that involves playing c5. This is not the main line. I'm talking about the main line with like bishop c4 and knight e2. in those lines, black has alternative ways to try to like play knight c6 and knight a5 and later b6 and c5. But sooner or later, you have to play for c5, whether it's c5 right away or maybe, you know, Ghostmind can also play b6. I'm sure that exists. The move b6 followed by bishop b7 instead of c5. But e6, it's not as constructive as many other moves black has. So black is lost now. No development with these guys. Oh, my rook is off the board too, effectively on a1. Wonder if I move the wrong rook there. You know what I mean? I was thinking about like rook b1, rook b3, and then later on playing a4. But in retrospect, I mean, maybe it would have been better to just play rook on a to b1. The rook is hanging and the bishop's hanging, so he has this move. But so f6 is weak. He can get back and defend. He could take on c6 here. This is probably the cutest way to win. A little bit fancy, perhaps. Exploiting his undevelopment. I think not the best move, you know. It would have been better to just play like queen h6. That's actually not threatening mate. Queen h6, come to think of it. Yeah, then he could play maybe bishop a4. Yeah, and I don't know. He didn't do that though. He took. Rook takes b8 check. Sleek combination. I think this is the fastest way to win. Undermining the rook on d7. Knight takes c7. It's not easy to protect here. There's no forced mate. We're just up 2 pieces. Unfortunately. Yes. There is no forced mate, unfortunately. None that I could see. He's defending f7. I was looking at knight g5. I really wanted to play knight g5, playing for mate. But after pawn takes pawn, queen check, he has rook g7. And I don't have a mate. I need to have the rook on b1, and I'd have forced mate. But it's not happening. So I could play queen f6 here. Queen d4. Did I miss that last move, queen d4? Oh, he has queen e7 there. Now he's left a diagonal. Left the building. But anyway. Nothing elegant. Just keep my extra pieces. Yeah, I mean, the problem was queen c3 all the time. Maybe I can allow mate in 1. I know I can do it. I've done it before. So really, really lame the way I've played the last couple of moves, but I didn't see anything concrete. He needs to get mate on h1. So queen c or b4, followed by queen takes e4, and then mate in 1. That's his only chance here. But I don't think he's going to have time. Well, queen e5, that's the best of all, because that way he keeps f6 protected. I shouldn't really play king f1, by the way. Would have been better just to play like rook d1. Rook d1, the rook is more active there anyway. Rook d1 if queen c2, yeah, there's our threat. But before your mate in 1 is my mate in 2. King g2. King g2 has got to be losing to queen a1. Or unclear. I have to take. Okay, bucanere. Is that like buccaneer? Bucanere was an old nickname of mine. Let's play e4. Fortuit foliae. I don't remember our games that well. You've taken away my ability to see our previous encounters here at the bottom of the screen. I do usually play the Spanish with white. Tomorrow is my Weird Wednesday stream where I play unusual openings. So if this was tomorrow, I would probably play maybe some sort of gambit with d4, e takes d, c3, or something interesting like that. But when given the chance, I normally play the white side of the Spanish, and I like it a lot. As now deceased Grandmaster Alexei Sweden argues in his book called Modern Chess Opening Theory, the Spanish is probably like the most complex strategic opening. Not as complex perhaps as some tactical things like the Sicilian, but in a strategic sense, I think that the Royal Paz or Spanish is arguably one of the most interesting sort of closed games, and for that reason, many top players regard it as the most important opening to really truly understand. So there's this old book that I like a lot that's out of print, Modern Chess Opening Theory, which I just talked about, and in that basically Sweden includes like a kind of like chapter where he's just going over variations in the Spanish, and I think it's true. You know, probably the Spanish is the truest like complex strategic opening in chess. At the moment, it's suffering because people are afraid of the Berlin defense. 3 knight f6, and white's been reduced to playing quietly with like d3 or queen e2 against knight f6. So that's changed the popularity, and everyone's playing bishop c4, which I kind of predicted would happen. Look at the games in Weekendse. A lot of Joko piano with bishop c4 because people now running out of ideas against the Berlin defense. Anyway, back to chess here. It's a classical Spanish. Knight takes e4, rook e1, d5, d3. Well, knight takes e4, rook e1. Knight takes e4, d4 is. Knight takes e4, d4 is the main line of the open variation. Rook e1 is some kind of sideline. We haven't had too many open variations here on the stream. Just once, I think. Anybody played against me the open variation. There are a lot of different possibilities in chess, and only so many can be played. Someone was saying that in the chorus tournament, Wesley So faced the King's Gambit for the first time in a tournament game. That's what they were claiming. I mean, you would think that like somewhere along the line he might have faced it in a club tournament when he was starting out or something like that. But who knows? I don't know what openings he played when he was weaker. So against Adiban, King's Gambit was a good surprise against Wesley So. Bishop b7. This is played a little early here. Not usually played so early. Sometimes white can do something dramatic like bishop to d5. But I don't see that quite working here. Black could simply play d6. What am I talking about? Chess, maybe. Bishop b5. d5, that is. The other b5. Well, this is kind of complicated, actually. Bishop b5, knight takes d5, e takes d, knight b4, something like that. It's pretty bizarre. I'm not that convinced that this is good for white. Bishop d5, knight takes d5, yeah, I mean, even if I played bishop d5 and he like castled, I'd wonder about it. Bishop d5 castles. Am I threatening anything there? Knight takes e5. I'm wasting a lot of time. I don't know. I'm just going to transpose. I'm not sold on this move, although it's interesting. Maybe d6. Simply d6 for black. So this is a very unusual move order. It's like he's playing the Archangel variation with bishop e7 instead of bishop c5. Archangelsk. I can't really pronounce that well. The original home of my friend Alexander Ivanov. Very close to the Arctic Circle. Well, maybe it's within the Arctic Circle. I don't know. Not a geographer. But I'm letting him off the hook here, just transposing to some kind of more normal order of moves. Should he castle or play d6? Oh. Bucanere. How can you afford to like lose a tempo, man? How can you afford to lose a tempo in this position, which is already risky enough for black? Self-immolation. Whew, this should just be like winning by force. A lot of possibilities. e5 comes to mind. The simple recapture is quite strong for white, no doubt. But e5 is a little more forcing. It doesn't have a square, really. I mean, am I laying some kind of fishing pole attack here? It's got to be bad for black. Although this simple take back here looks catastrophic. Maybe he could get castled in that case, though, like bishop b4 and I just have to like complete my development. So I thought this was a bit sharper for white to play e5. The Archangel variation with the tempo down. Yeah, it's already pretty tough as it is, you know, to play it like... Black has to be careful in that opening, but it's not too bad straight up. But I think with the tempo down, it probably loses by force. So guys, we have half an hour left, which means like Vasilikos and Zen chess. Tactical Destroyer, it really depends on how fast the other games are here. Bishop takes f7 check. Kind of. Maybe I prefer knight g5. Yeah, I'm gonna go for this. Actually, I can play pawn takes pawn first. There's so many choices. Now, if queen h4 was a legal move here, black would be in good shape. But it is not legal. I just assumed I'm winning a piece, which is probably a fair assumption. I'm having trouble like looking at the position pawn takes pawn. That doesn't help. I don't think that helps me playing pawn takes d4. Definitely an original piece sacrifice by black. The tempo down variation. Obviously the other way he couldn't take with the other knight because his knight was hanging, you know. Knight takes e5, queen takes g4. So he's making the best of a bad situation. Just checking if there's anything fancy here like bishop g5. I guess it's all going according to plan for Buchanere. Was that the best way for me to play this? Well, he took on e5. Now here I think you made a very bad mistake. I mean, this looks like the moment where you castle queenside. Black has a little bit of compensation for the sacrificed piece. It's possible I missed something, but that looked like a very reasonable try. I can also play pawn takes d4, obviously. But he could have really done that. Castles queenside, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, obviously he's down a piece, but he has some threats against f2. He's down a piece for a pawn, but he's completely developed. And I think white would have had to be very careful there. He has all the pieces kind of trained on my king's side. So I definitely made some kind of mistake. I guess here he's just losing all his pieces. There could be some trick. Not really. 2 pieces down for a pawn or 2. Anyway, any plans on defeating Magnus? Show me how to play, master. I think I'll like you know, dress up like Richard Rapport or something and try to pretend I'm him the next time I play Magnus. It seems to have some kind of an effect, because when I played him as me, it didn't really work. I came close to drawing, but I don't think winning was ever really an option. Well, okay, 4-2 at Folier. Why not castle queenside there? You had some legitimate counterplay. Missed your moment. The tempo down. The old tempo down Archangel's variation. Well, at least 2 games left. I'm on the fence as to whether we're gonna have time to play Mr. Tactical Destroyer or not. Rook takes. Rather than like get myself pinned with Rook E8, I think it's better to do it this way. I'm gonna get myself pinned anyway. Alright, that game was ridiculous concept, black sacrificing that tempo. So Vasilikos, let's play another E4 game. Tomorrow is my Weird Wednesday stream. Actually, I don't know where our moderator is today. Jeroen. Tomorrow's our Weird Wednesday. He likes that. Where I play openings I don't normally play in my standard repertoire. Let's have a second chance at this. Maybe we can get a good opening here. Vasilikos, I don't remember if we had ever played in these 3 games of Spanish where I was white or not. But he is repeating the same. Yes, everyone is terrified to play the Berlin against me, of course. He's repeating the same game. But somehow I think he's going to vary. Bishop B3 from Greece. Yes, okay, so D6. This is the traditional move. Black can also castle, preparing the Marshall Gambit. Now we have another player who's gone and played something substandard. Knight A5. Pretty early. I have seen Bishop B7 in this position as well. And some good players, I think Elyanov has actually done that. Playing Bishop B7 before white even commits to H3. But Knight A5 on move 8. I mean, I'm sure this has been played. The same thing will probably hold here. You know, that the pressure is taken off of D4. So if the pressure is taken off of D4, then we probably don't need to fear Bishop G4 as much. Therefore, H3 isn't really necessary for white. So white can play sans H3. The big question is, do we want to play D4 or D3? But I would think that D4 is much more ambitious. D3 is a quiet system. So he's playing this without castling and without me playing H3. Just trying to understand what that really means. I'm not a huge fan of like wimpy like pawn moves, so I'm not a huge fan. Is that what I said? I'm not a huge fan of wimpy pawn moves like H3 and unnecessary weakening moves. So if I can do without H3, Much obliged. Castling is something I don't think that black can ultimately do without. Now he's decided to lock the queenside with c4, taking pressure off of d4, which wasn't really an issue anyway. Now traditionally white often plays like a4 on the queenside, but in this particular situation it feels like the battle lines are drawn. I mean, I'm strong on e4, I have a good center, but my pieces are kind of headed toward the king side, so a4 feels like, at this point, probably the wrong way to go. We try to initiate some kind of kingside attack. Knight g3. Not my favorite square. But it gets in the way of the bishop on e3. I think we're going to end up having to play, we might end up having to play h3 anyway. It's kind of a useful move. Not just yet. Traditional opening theory says that moves such as like c4 are incorrect because taking the pressure off the center, off the d4 pawn, kind of gives me a free hand on the king side. This is standard move, stopping knight f5, stopping knight h5. And I'm not sure that bishop h6 is good or not. I don't really know. We could actually transpose, if I play h3, I guess the game could transpose into some kind of very well-known territory. Again, c4, I'm not really convinced about that. But I don't really like bishop h6 because it just drives his rook to a square like maybe d8 or e8, while not really contributing a lot to my position. You might ask, what about closing the center with d5? I think this is an interesting option. But I've been kind of waiting to see what happens here. So I played h3 over after all we've said and done. Vasilikos playing super fast. He's played the entire game in 30 seconds. I guess he likes this position. Bishop g5 doesn't have much effect here. Maybe d5 now. I'd like him to play bishop b7, honestly. That would really make d5 strong, but I don't think he's going to cooperate. It's kind of disturbing me how fast he's played this. Retreating the knight from this fluid center, a little slightly fluid center. I'm not sure that's the right idea. I think I should close it up. If I'm going to start maneuvering on the king's side, then it's best to close the center. But I'd be very surprised if this position wasn't a direct transposition to some kind of very well-known line. I thought I said I'm not a huge pawn of... Yeah, that's what I had the feeling. I was afraid that's what I said. That's why I covered my tracks. I heard myself say it, and then I was like, I think I said pawn. Bishop f8 here now. Interesting move. Wonder if it's worthwhile to play bishop g5. By the way, speaking of Wesley So, Wesley seems like a player who's quite good at these closed Spanishes. I wasn't aware that Vasilikos was a specialist, but he's played the entire game using only 30 seconds. Looks like quite a good position for black. I think my plan of queen d2 may be kind of artificial. I'm not convinced by this. I really wanted to play like knight h2 and queen f3. But my problem is this knight on g3. The knight on g3, it's extremely awkward. It's in the way of my g-pawn, which I need to conduct an attack on the king side. I don't think that Tactical Destroyer is going to get into this today. This game with Vasilikos is just too long. Oh, Soroche snuck in. Good to see you, man. So, I guess today they're back... well, yesterday was a rest day at Weekendse, right? Am I losing my mind? Today's the rest day. It was yesterday that Rapport beat... No, it was Sunday Rapport beat Carlsen. Yesterday was a rest day, and today they're playing, right? Knight b7, for lack of a better square. Alright. This move is sort of indispensable. But now my queen being on d2, I can't play knight g4. I'm not sure what my plan is. Well, maybe just bishop h6 first, and try to stir up some trouble that way. I don't know, maybe there's some piece sacrifices I could do with like knight h4 and knight f5. Ask Wesley. I just was thinking of a game where he crushed Kamsky, but that was a Breyer defense with like knight b8, knight d7, where the center got closed. Totally different line. Geary Rapport today. Please ask something useful. Do you study Wesley So? No, I mean, I just talk about him because he is kind of like one of the only 2,800 players in the world. And I've been impressed by him. But I don't go out of my way to study all his games. Maybe I would if I had unlimited time. I think you could do worse. The guy is very, very strong. H5, wow. H5 is really risky for black. Now I seriously regret my decision to play queen d2. Well, maybe not. Knight on g3 is just disgusting. Alright, we gotta recirculate him. He's getting recirculated. Both knights are looking pretty stupid here. But black has no counterplay at the moment. He can start to try to get some counterplay on the queen side. Knight c5 and a5 and whatnot. H5 is commitment. It's a commitment on the king side for black. Traditionally, not usually played. Maybe weakens the king side more than it helps. And this knight might think about going back to f3. Now it has like g5 and h4. But also I can play for g4. I mean, that should be my main plan. Try to set up g4 at this point. Looks like the right idea. Guys, we're streaming for another 15 minutes or so. This game and one more. Do you like poker? I like poker. I spent playing like 10 years of my life playing poker. I actually was doing zero chess practically and only poker between 2010 and 2015. But I since have stopped playing online poker. We are endeavoring to do other stuff. Knight h7 now, so black could potentially play f5, King's Indian style. But it's very, very risky. Bishop h6. It's a tough call. Bishop h6 or bishop e3. Bishop h6, f5. Bishop takes g7. Queen takes g7. Pawn takes f5. I think I'm, this bishop is actually kind of dead. So I think I'm alright with that. It's not really a King's Indian. With the pawn on c3, it's not all that scary if that opens up or something. Non-traditional approach. But maybe, what was I analyzing exactly though? Bishop takes, bishop h6, right? Well, there's like bishop h6, f5, bishop takes g7, queen takes g7, pawn takes f5. Pawn takes f5, knight g3. I'm just thinking about that. But he has queen g6 even there. His king side looks a little bit weak. So that was probably a critical moment. Should I play bishop h6 or bishop e3? And I also don't know if I played this really correctly this far. I feel like I've been a little hesitant. Now he played knight c5, so he's embarking on the other side of the board. I think I have to be... We have to do this at this point. I feel like I'm playing Lengyel Bela, like a Spanish specialist here in Budapest. An old dude who, he's like 70, but he still plays blitz pretty strongly. An expert on the black side of the Spanish. He would do h5 sometimes in similar situations. Try to get away with it. I feel like I have to do g4 though. Some people will draw these parallels between the Royal Paz or Spanish and the King's Indian. I think you have to be fairly advanced to see that, but it is a real strategic, there is a real strategic similarity. Positions such as this, obviously. Now, the question is, did this opening of the H file favor him or me long term? The knight f6 looks like a bad move. The first stinker, Alexander Ivanov calls skunks American stinkers. Like, they don't exist in Europe. No, knight f6. I think you should batten down the hatches there, Vasilikos, and try to play like maybe f6 and just lock it up. You know, go into a kind of passive. Unless you have f5 or something like that, because now black's going to get smoked. This looks problematic for black. Where's my h2 knight going though? Look at that guy. He's seriously helpless. This knight is terrible. But I guess we can afford one bad piece. Still, he's going to have to move at some point. He's in the way. You're in the way, man. Get out of the way. He's obviously going to f1. Now the traditional... Uh-oh. Gonna try to get away? We're not gonna let you get away. It's not that easy. The traditional attack for white in this kind of Spanish is usually the knight f5 sacrifice. Now here I was banking on winning a piece, and I hope that it works. If it doesn't, I'm in a lot of trouble. Is my queen trapped or something? If his rooks were connected, I might be losing my queen there. So it's like a purely strategic game. Spanish, not a tactical opening. Highly recommend it. Maybe I should play something violent here. Keep him busy, so to speak. He's trying to get away. Oh no. Alright, thank you Vasilikos for an instructive game. We are going to play Zen chess. Last game for today. Tactical Destroyer. Who is next, man? You're on the bubble. Tactical Destroyer is getting bubbled today. Hopefully in the afternoon I can play, if you're still around, I can play, if you're around later today, Tactical Destroyer. Challenge me. But circumstances beyond my control made the last games like extremely long. We had two really long games. I really wanted to play, but we're going to be overtime as it is. Against Zen Chess, I'm going to be like 15 minutes over. So he's playing the same line again. I don't think I can stomach another one of these. I've tried to play other experimental moves like knight h6 there, but they're just not very good. Let's try to mix it up. I'm going to play d6. I've never done this before, but I looked at it with the Opening Explorer and ChessBase and some engine, and the d6 seems okay for black. This shifts to like a kind of traditional kind of standard Grand Prix attack. Now I was thinking, what was I thinking? Oh yeah, right. Knight f6 is okay. Can you do e5? What if I were to play like bishop c6 first? Now I may lose this game against Zen Chess, but I want to try something kind of creative. How do you know you've never done this before? Okay, later when you rest a bit, I'll challenge you to 2 games. Sounds good. Sounds good. I had like the same exact position against an expert. But I was in Zen chess's position years ago. I remember a game, virtually the same position, although maybe you're a tempo up. I feel like you might be a tempo up here in my game. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. What am I going to do? Queen d7? I want to keep this knight where it can deploy like one way or the other. And the only thing that black has going for him is the fact that I have an unopposed white squared bishop here. So there are some situations where like this thing could become kind of problem for white. And now knight f6 seems okay, right? e5, knight d5? Or maybe I should castle queenside first and then think about it. Knight f6, e5, knight d5. Well, I guess that's the right way to play this. I'm not going to commit myself until you commit yourself to doing something. Zen chess is now 2204. That's kind of the standard rating distribution here on lichess. It seems like most people classical ratings are 200 points higher than their blitz ratings. But in my case, it's the opposite. Not really sure why that is. Jerry is weird about playing other streamers. Did you ever play against Jerry? I want to see you and Jerry battling it out. Well, there is a rumor that I played Jerry in a tournament. And I'm going to say it was in and around 2000. When he was like a high school age guy. I don't remember if I lost or drew, but I just remember that it was like the first round of a big tournament, and he was much, much lower rated than me, and I was really pissed off that I didn't win. But my memory blacked it out. It was an unpleasant memory not beating someone who was like 2100. I was probably like 350 rating points higher than him, and I don't know, if it was a loss or a draw, but I was disappointed one way or the other. As far as playing Jerry online, I'm not sure, because he's like secretive about his online accounts. But if I had played him online, it would have been long ago as well, most likely. Someone said he was Hypnotic Spectre on ICC, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. There was a rumor. So Zen chess playing this perfectly. Now I'm pretty well developed. He's trying to prepare, like, in case I castle queenside, to have some kind of counterplay. And that's how my game went with this guy, Tim Hankey, who was like a 2100 player. There's another game where I don't remember if I lost or drew, but it wasn't a win, so it's all lumped in the same category. When I play someone who's like 300 rating points lower and I don't win, it's kind of an upset either way. Jerry Springer, well, I could have been on the Jerry Springer show too, but I declined. Definitely had reason to do so. It would have been a great episode. But yeah, that was possible as well. Rook b1. What do you guys think about castling kingside now? He has a somewhat strong attack. Another possibility is b5. Then does he do like b4? If I play b5, there's no going back though. There's no more castling queenside. I could play b6 and keep my options open. Last game for the stream today, guys. Do you write out chess moves by hand like Bobby Fischer? Or do you only rely on computer database? Back in the day I did, but not like lately. Ironically, there's an article in the BBC today about the rise of the pencil and the pen again, or something like that. In the digital age, people are starting to write with pen and pencils again. But yeah, now I don't think I would waste my time. At least chess analysis would be only on the computer. Castle's kingside. He's going to attack me with like queen h4 and whatnot. So let's keep the options open. Let's castle queenside. I don't think that white's position is really designed for a queenside attack, and that's why I feel that this is a valid way for black to play here. So the game when I failed to win with white, I had very much the same position as Zen chess, and that game left a kind of lasting impression on me, because I was unable to really get anything going against this guy in the same position when I was white. I just felt like I didn't really understand like what I'm supposed to do here. But maybe Zen chess played this more accurately than me. I don't remember my exact move order. I might have done something. I mean, I don't think that I telegraphed like this kingside attack with like queen h4. That's going a little too far. Now he played e5 though. This is a move I'm happy to see. I feel like that doesn't really make sense in this situation. Not to say that the position doesn't hold some danger for me. But fundamentally, the white squared bishop should play here for black. I may need to play b6 at some point. f6 isn't even an interesting move. What if we were to like preemptively retreat with knight c7? f6. It's just hard for white to control the white squares in this position. So I thought this may not be so bad for black. Four minutes to 2. To become a GM, you need to go over 2,500. I got as high as probably 2475 unofficially, but I never reached the 2,500. I think I probably got 2475 in 2003, but I would have needed to get 25 more points to have high enough rating for GM. And you also need to have 3 performances where the result is even better than that. So it's quite difficult. So I didn't make it on rating, and I didn't make it with required results either. And b6 may be necessary at some point here. a3. think we're going to have to play b6 at some point. Shore up the c5 square. I don't like weakening my position, but I think we can afford it a little bit, you know. The white squares are so solid for black here. And my knight is going to get kicked out at some point. Plays a4, I can take. Everything is harmonious for black here. But it still looks like his position is perfectly okay. Maybe f4 is a little bit weak. If there's a weak point, difficult to exploit that though. Ah, yes, Queen h4. I think this is going to call for drastic measures. I'm going to have to play like f5. I was thinking about doing this blockade anyway, but now he's practically forced me to do it. I don't know who Zen Chess is. He's anonymous, and sometimes I suspected he might be a player who had another account on here, but not sure. Maybe not. And sometimes we do get players who, you know, they like to reappear as new people. So we're in blockade mode. Man, I could hack that knight on f3, but it would leave my king a little... It's an awfully powerful bishop to trade on f3, let's just say that. This has turned into a very, very strong piece in this position. I feel like white's getting outplayed positionally. The pawn structure has gone kind of wrong for him. But he's looking for counterplay here. Rook g8. Looks pretty nasty. Rook g8 is good. We can outflank him with g5. It would be fatal. Wow. I don't think so. Not today. Why didn't I just take on f3? I guess it would have been possible. Alright. I was more afraid of a knight getting to that square, Zen Chess, to be perfectly honest with you. This was a little bit concerning. But now I feel like we're good to go. He is very fast. That's not happening. He's kind of a super fast player with increment situations, so do have to keep that in mind. I could have played bishop takes g2 there, but he could trade queens on c4. I'm not that convinced by that, so I think we play it safe. Not sure what's going on here. Kidding me, right? You saw that? Wow. Thought I had all sorts of tactics here. I guess not. I was clearly better, but I guess I'm just going to lose on time. Well, you have knight g1 there. There is a defense. Knight g1, only move. Maybe, well, there's also rook takes b6 check. But objectively, that should be losing. Knight g1, I actually don't see an immediate win. Or knight g1. Good games and chess, and we'll be back tomorrow, guys. Weird Wednesday with unusual openings. Nothing absurd, but stuff I don't normally play. Kind of fun openings, gambits, and whatnot. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube, and we'll be happy to discuss like training or lessons or suggestions about the stream. If you want to email me, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. Also like to thank everyone who's donated. The few of you who have donated to support the stream 2017 via PayPal or otherwise, it does help me to keep things going. So I much appreciate any kind of support for my YouTube channel or the stream here. And otherwise, thank you for just tuning in. If you can't afford to donate $5 a year, just take part and tune in and help to make the channel better with some great chess. And finally, I'd like to thank Jeroen for moderating here in the chat. Otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bye-bye.